welcome to our second review of the evening. It is a game just called Football Game. As I mentioned in the closer to the last review, Football Game is a good general description of it, but it's not a game about football so much. It is about a game about a football player.
Mm-hmm.
You know, football is actually is a side thing, like really just about window dressing.
Mm-hmm.
You because your character is a guy named Tommy. He is the local star quarterback of a small town called East Bend, USA. This place could be a lot of places in the USA. Not going to be, given the game's origin, this game was actually developed in the UK. They captured that small town piece of shit location pretty well.
Indeed.
I'm not sure if they came over to the States for research or what have you, but it wasn't super detailed or anything. Nothing in this game is super detailed. But it's definitely a believable facsimile of some hole in the wall that the residents can't wait to fucking flee if they can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also one of these places where football isn't just a sport; it's a way of life. Like, especially high school football. That's an indication of where this town is in terms of population. It's like they don't even have college football to gravitate towards. They're gravitating towards high school football. So, yeah, it's a real podunk place. And Tommy is a guy who's hoping to, parlay his, high school football stardom into bigger and better things. Not just in terms of, leaving East Bend and going to, becoming like a college football player or what have you. Not that part's not really mentioned, but it's more he wants to, deepen his relationship with his girlfriend Susie. He not sure if it was going to be if they were going for outright engagement, but he bought a present. There's this big party happening at the school, and he's planning on springing this on Susie at the game party. That being said, this game starts out with Tommy waking up from a bender. He has been drinking quite profusely, and he has to deal with the immediate fallout with that, and then going to the game, he has to do some adventure gaming on the way to meeting up with his high school love.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of have to keep it generalized here because this game is very storyline heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hesitate to guess which one of our adventure games this week is the most, but you're gonna want to play this game for the narrative. As far as this game as an adventure game, it's basic. It's about as basic as you can get, while still being an actual adventure game, and not being a narrative exploratory walking simulator type thing, like because there are still puzzles to solve, objects to interact with, that whole deal. It's just this game isn't very complicated with them. Like you'll be able to figure out what goes to what pretty quickly. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and in keeping with that, the art style is very simple and like very, it's like this is an intentional abstraction. Though I will give them credit for going with, an off kilter art style. Like, this, it's not another retro game look. This game isn't trying to ape the look of, say, King's Quest 1 or King's Quest 5 or something like that. In fact, it's not really going for a retro style at all. Um, this game is simple in the art sense. It's all basic shapes, at least from afar. Like when you get to like actual character portraits and stuff, it gets super detailed.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I do think this game it gives this game a pretty fresh identity. As far as the story itself, it's like it's shockingly engaging. That's what I can say about it. And
Yeah.
definitely the kind of thing that you should experience blind.
Mm-hmm.
And the music is an interesting beast in that I don't recall any music like playing during the interspersional like segments, like anything with gameplay. It's like the main centerpiece of the music done by UK duo Jupiter C is when you're driving your car. It's like you got two mixtapes, and the track will play while you're driving. You can skip this if you want, or you can listen to it. And granted, Jupiter C is an unexpected genre insertion here because it's at least at first, because the other thing to mention is that for some reason this game takes place in the 80s. Like it's like 1987.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't really think of. I'm thinking about it, and I can't really think of a reason why it was taking place in this year. Other than maybe they didn't want to have modern technology. It's probably a modern technology thing. Like,
Perhaps.
you have to track down your girlfriend, so you can't just say text her or something like that.
Mhm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and Jupiter C is a new wave band. Very synth heavy, very, this is the sound. This is kind of the sound of the 80s. Honestly, it sounded a bit too modern to fit the Dateline, but it was fine. And in terms of pricing, the game has a few prices. That is to say, two, because on the consoles, it's your typical Radalaikia price of $4.99. And the PC version clocks in at $2. Also worth noting, this game has an official soundtrack purchase for another $2 on the Steam site. And before I weigh in on final judgment, Petty Fan, why don't you tell us a bit about the PlayStation 4 version?
This would probably be the least preferable version because it doesn't use the touchpad, but still wants to do like point and click controls, but it makes you use the analog sticks, and they're really slow.
Really fun times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Point and click on a console, you can make it work, but it's never optimal.
Indeed.
Since it was the PlayStation 4 version, we can't really chime in with how the Switch version handled things, like if it has touchscreen support there. But yeah, I'd say if you're gonna buy this game, get the PC version. It's significantly cheaper, or it's about the same price if you buy the soundtrack. And it's got the better controls. It's got the preferable controls here. And this game will run you about an hour and a half. Yeah. And I'd say it's a solid. It's a good game for what it is. It's another really basic and short game. So, it's a rating for fine, but if you're looking for something with a bit more meat in terms of like actual adventure gaming, probably look at some of the other adventure games we've reviewed this year, in previous weeks. But if you're looking for something that's pretty meaty in terms of narrative, and I do wish I could talk about this in more detail, but it's really vital that I keep this under wraps because this is really 99% of the game here.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other thoughts on football game here?
Not really. Like, it's an interesting story. People may like it.
Yeah, like Adam said before, it's surprisingly engaging.
All right, then. So that'll about do it for football game. Be sure to tune in after the break as we'll be reviewing One Night Stand.